It's time for your Low Country Real Estate Market Update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning, Charleston. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. Thanks so much for joining me this morning, where we're going to talk all things real estate here for the next hour. If this is your first time tuning into this show, this is what we do on this program. We talk about everything having to do with real estate here in the Low Country. And what I like to do is I like to take national news, regional news, local news, apply that to the Low Country here, so that as you listen to this program, you have an idea of what's going on in our real estate market. I also focus a lot on education, and then I share some stories with you as an agent that's been in the top 1% of realtors in our market since 2009. So we put all that together, and then when it comes time for you to buy or sell a home or invest in property, or if you just want to stay informed on the real estate market, that this is the source for your information. So if at any point you'd like to reach out to me, because I've got a lot planned for this show, and I'm already talking a little fast because I've got so much content that I want to get through. But if you'd like to reach out to me, the best way to do that is to go to my website, which is now mobile responsive. I've kind of revamped the site a little bit. That website is www.listingsincharleston.com, or you can give me a call. My number 843-345-1273. So let me tell you what I want to talk about this weekend. And, we've got this program Saturdays at 8, and we've got this program Sundays at 10 for 1 hour. So if you missed part of this show, or you want to tune in tomorrow, feel free to do so. You can also just go to my website. I have every version of this show since the beginning of the year on that website, listingsincharleston.com. But here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about trends in the marketplace. I want to give you guys an idea of what's going on right now, because it is the busiest time of the year. And, make hay while the sun shines, as they say. So it's a very busy market. And when things get really busy, it really it starts to show the true colors of our market, both in terms of transactions, the behaviors of buyers and sellers and agents, and just overall where I think our market is headed. So that's what I want to talk about for this first segment here. A little bit later on in the program, we're going to hit on foreclosures and short sales, because I haven't really talked about that for about a month and a half, 2 months, and it's something that it's almost all of what I used to do back when our market had a lot of distressed properties. So I want to touch on that, give you guys an update on what's going on there. And then the last half of this program, I want to talk about hiring a realtor as a buyer agent and hiring a realtor as a listing agent. And then when it doesn't work out, we also need to talk about how to end that relationship professionally. So I'm going to talk about how to fire your client, and it could be both ways. It could be that you're firing the agent. It could be that the agent is firing you. So that's what I want to talk about at the very end of this program. So let me get into what's going on in our market right now. First, let me give you a little bit of a background on just the overall inventory. We talk a lot on this program about inventory, months of inventory, and it's what we use to measure the health of a real estate market. And so the way you come up with months of inventory is you take the total number of properties for sale in a given area or at a given time, and then you divide that number by the average amount of monthly sales. And that gives you the month's supply of inventory. And you hear people talk about it all the time. An average market where there's no real upward or downward pressure on pricing, there's no oversupply or undersupply of homes, there's no excess listings, there's no excess buyers, just a normal market where normal appreciation is going to occur, is about 6 to 8 months worth of inventory. Right now, we are at 5.4 months worth of inventory. So in the Tri-County area, which is what I've been saying for the past several weeks, several months, is that we are in a seller's market in the Tri-County area. Now, if you compare this market right now, let's say end of June to June of 2013, in June of 2013, we were at 6.3 months worth of supply. or months of inventory. So inventory continues to go downward, and basically everything that we look at to measure the health of a real estate market is in good shape right now. Inventory overall is down. Sales are up. Pricing is up. The length of time it takes to put a property under contract is down. Properties are selling for more money. So overall, great market. But let me give you just a little bit of a history lesson on supply. And I want to take you back 10 years. In 2004, when our market was doing very, very, very well, we had 4,000 properties available for sale in the Tri-County area. And I'm just talking about residential listings. But residential listings in the Tri-County area, we had 4,000 properties available for sale. Then in 2005, we had 5,500. Then in 2006, we had 10,000. Then in 2007, 11,000, 2008, 12,000. And then 2009, it started to back down. 2009, we had a little over 10,000 properties. 2011, 8,000 properties. 2012, 6,750. Last year, we had about 6,500 properties. And then right now, we have a little over 6,000 properties available for sale in our MLS system. So you can see what's happened here. I mean, inventory just 6 years ago was twice what it is right now. So inventory has been cut in half and sales have doubled. That's why we're on such this rubber band effect of correction in our marketplace. And that's why you're seeing pricing in downtown Charleston or Mount Pleasant or wherever the case might be, double-digit increases in pricing. It has changed very quickly. And I was on Tara's morning show on Friday, and I always am, Friday mornings at around 7:45, 7:50, just to give you guys a little bit of an update on what's going on in the market. And we talked about new housing starts. And it's a very interesting conversation because she had mentioned, she read a report, and it was put out by the Case-Shiller Index, and it said that new housing starts typically are a little over, or they're closer to 2 million new home starts, whereas now we're at just over 1 million. The last two times that we had less than 1 million housing starts were at the Great Depression, and then, what was the other one? Several years ago when our housing market crashed. And the reason for that is because if you think about it, the time that it takes for developers to acquire land and then put in the infrastructure, put in the road systems, put in the sewer, the water, the electricity, individually plat each property, all of that takes time. And it's all part of a very lengthy acquisition process for those builders, for whomever they're purchasing it from. So if we're measuring housing permits, permits that measure the house start process, then yeah, that's going to be a little bit slow because we're just now at a point where new construction is really starting to take shape, and the sales of new construction are starting to sway our market and provide us with more inventory opportunities. But what we have to understand is that is a process that takes time, and as a market nationally, we've only been in the recovery process for 12 to 18 months now. Some cases a little bit more than that. Charleston, I would say that we've been in recovery for 18 months. Certainly, if you look at Charleston County, we've been in a seller's market for at least a year, probably closer to 18 months, maybe in some areas 2 years. But that was just an interesting thought, and that I think what also is happening with regard to builders is that they're target marketing who they're building homes for. Right now, they're focusing on the move-up buyer. Let's face it, first-time home buyers, people that are the millennials, people that graduated college a few years ago, don't quite have it yet. They don't have the ability to wipe away that student debt, get a job that has a good income, and purchase their first home. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of first-time home buyers out there, but by and large, that segment as a whole has issues. They have issues with debt. They have issues with finding available jobs. They have issues with finding jobs that pay them enough for them to be able to own a home. or at least save up for a down payment and closing costs, and then all the extra expenses associated with home ownership. We're getting there, but it's not quite there yet. So yet another reason why home builders are kind of target marketing that move-up buyer or that retiree, somebody with some money, the baby boomer generation, the people that now need 4 bedrooms instead of 3, or 5 bedrooms instead of 3. So just another interesting thought about what's going on in our market. And I gave you a little bit of a history of supply. I will tell you that deals are becoming a little bit more difficult to get done. It seems that people are rushing into decisions due to a lack of supply. I've seen it more this year than I've seen it really in my career. People used to back out of contracts for different reasons, and it was because prices were falling. Now prices are increasing, and buyers are rushing to put something under contract, and then they're getting cold feet because it's either not exactly what they want, or they're getting freaked out over something, maybe something as small as something on a home inspection that the seller is willing to fix. But the buyer says, no, I'm not comfortable with that, whatever the case might be. And I want to talk a little bit more about that, and then I want to transition that into the foreclosure and short sale market, because there's a lot going on in there right now in that segment of the market that I want to talk about. So I'm going to take a quick break. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Don't forget to reach out to me, 843-345-1273, or visit my website, listingsincharleston.com. I'll be right back.
More stimulating talk on real estate matters with Brian Beatty next on 1250 WTMA. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Thanks for joining me again this morning. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. And I was just realizing as we were on a break that I might seem as though I'm a little bit more energetic than normal this morning. And I got to tell you, this is the time of year in our market where we are at our busiest. It is the most opportunity we have to get deals done and provide an income for ourselves and for our family. So if I sound like I'm a little bit more full of energy than normal, it's because I have kind of a coffee IV drip in my system right now. But you got to have a lot of energy to be in this market and to not only compete in it, of course, because there's a lot of agents out there that are doing the exact same thing, but you also have to have a lot of energy for your clients right now, because it's a very busy time of year. And what I was saying before I went on break is that I'm noticing a lot of contracts are falling through. And what I think is happening is that agents are rushing their buyers into decisions to tie up property, to say, hey, you need to do this now or it's going to be gone. And while that might be a true statement, what I'm also finding is that buyers are getting cold feet because, in my opinion, and this has happened to me several times this year, and it's always a frustration, I don't feel like buyers and their agents are doing their due diligence up front before making an offer on a property to purchase. And it might be that it doesn't matter what price range it's in, and it doesn't really matter the circumstance. If you're going to purchase a home, it doesn't matter if it's $100,000 or $1 million. You need to have a level of comfort in knowing that that is the right home for you. And frankly, I don't see much excuse in, oh, well, I didn't realize that insurance was going to be so high. Don't you research that before you make an offer on a home? Please nod your head yes as you're listening to this program. Yes, you do some due diligence up front before you make an offer. And that's the part of where the real estate agent comes into play. And I'm going to talk, not this segment, but next segment, about what it means to really hire an effective buyer agent. And then what it also means to hire a really effective listing agent to make sure that our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted, and that we have the best shot possible at taking this contract and actually closing it. Because if we take a contract, we put something under contract that doesn't close, it really hurts everybody. Because then we start to talk about earnest money disputes, and the property's been left off the market for a number of days, weeks, sometimes months. They've lost marketing opportunities, so on and so forth. It can turn very ugly very quickly. And I think it all can be solved, by and large, by doing some research up front and by being prepared. So that's what I want to talk about toward the latter part of this show. And then, of course, like I had mentioned, sometimes it just doesn't work out when you're working with a real estate agent. So we need to have a discussion about how to approach discontinuing your relationship with your real estate agent is the most professional way I can say that. So let me just talk a little bit more about what's going on our market right now. Then I want to talk about short sales and foreclosures. And if you have any questions for me, if there's anything that I'm saying that you want more information on, feel free to give me a call. Or if you're considering buying or selling a home, I'm happy to work with you. Again, I've been in the top 1% of agents here since 2009. So it doesn't matter what you're looking for, where you live, happy to help. My number is 843-345-1273. And you can also go to my website, listingsincharleston.com, which now has mobile functionality. So just a little bit more about the real estate market. We talk a lot about pricing on this program. And depending upon where you are and depending upon what you're looking for, some have probably noticed as they are looking for a new home that not only is there a lack of supply, but it seems as though the properties that are priced well and the properties that are in good condition are selling almost immediately. And that's a testament to the type of market that we're in right now. So for those of you that are considering selling your home out there, and I would hope that you would call me so I can assist you in that process, but just understand that if you have a home that you are willing to price correctly or reasonably well, you know, I'm not talking about situations where, oh, well, let's just put our house on the market and see what happens. If someone buys it, great. Sometimes those work out, but what I'm finding right now is a lot of agents are taking listings and overpricing them to the point where it's actually to the detriment of that seller. So that's something we'll talk about a little bit later on. But as far as pricing is concerned, hey, it's a great time in our market. Prices are going up, which is great. You know, it's fun to be able to talk with people about the fact that, congratulations, you now have X amount in equity, whereas 3 years ago, you didn't. So now if you're considering selling, you have the ability to do so. Let's get you into that smaller home that you were talking about downsizing to, or let's take advantage of the market. Let's sell your home and let's find something with more space for your growing family because interest rates are so low right now. So you get to take advantage of the fact that your home has risen in value and that although the home you're going to purchase has, the interest rates are still low. And, you know, one thing that I also want to talk about, and I'll probably focus on this next show for next week, is adjustable rate mortgages. You know, I think people have such a fear of 5-year ARMs or 7-year ARMs. But if you're a first-time home buyer, or if you know that your family is going to grow to the point where in 5 to 7 years you are going to move, adjustable rate mortgages might make sense for you because you get the advantage of a low rate for 5 years or for 7 years or for whatever the program or product you choose. And then if you know you're going to move, then take advantage of that opportunity. And even if you decide to do a 5-year ARM and it takes you 6 years to sell, you're still going to save more money by having a lower payment for 5 years, even if that rate were to adjust upward after that 5th year. So that's something that we can talk more about. If you have any questions about that, I do have lenders on my team that can answer very specific questions. And if you've tuned into my program before, you know that I also do a live show from time to time where we field questions, and I usually have a lender and an insurance guy with me to discuss that. So again, any questions on any of that stuff, give me a call, 843-345-1273, and I'll put you in touch with the right person, or you can just contact me through my website, listingsincharleston.com. Let me switch gears here for a little bit. Let me talk about the foreclosure and short sale market. And let me first kind of do what I did first segment, which is let me just tell you what's going on. When we look at where our market was several years ago, it was all the rage. It was, you know, all the buzz to buy a short sale or foreclosure. And it didn't matter if you were buying investment property. It didn't matter. You wanted to start with the foreclosures and the short sales because that's where the deals were. Well, as our market has improved to the point where we are now in a seller's market, that's not necessarily the case anymore. We used to have these droves of foreclosures that hit the market every month. And again, back from, 2008 until 2011, parts of 2012, that's almost all of what I did was help people buy foreclosures and short sales and then assist sellers through that short sale process. And I've done it close to 100 times probably. Very skilled in it, and it's something that I still do as part of my real estate practice. But the market has changed. The environment has changed. And what's changed about it is that if I look at everything available for sale right now, and again, we have about 6,000 properties for sale in our MLS, residential listings only. I'm not talking about vacant land or multifamily or any of that stuff, just housing. We've got about 6,000 properties for sale, a little over 6,000 properties. The number of properties available for sale that are short sales or foreclosures are, take a guess, it's probably lower than you think, 5%. Only 5% of what's available right now is a short sale or a foreclosure. In total, we have about 350 to 400 short sales and foreclosures listed for sale in our market. So 5-6%. It's not a lot to choose from. And banks know this. If we look at what's sold so far this year, we've had about 7,000 closings, which, hey, give yourself a hand because that's an awesome number for our market. It really means that we've recovered. But if you look at the numbers, we've only had about 700 closings this year that were short sales and foreclosures. Now, we've got quite a bit under contract that are short sales and foreclosures that will close over time. They're going to close as the months go by. It's not going to all be at once. So that number is going to stay just about the same, about 10%. So you can see the trend. It's reducing. Tell you what, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to dive into that in more detail. I'm going to give you some information on South Carolina and the foreclosure activity in general and how that compares to national averages. And then we're going to break it down by county. I'm going to talk about Charleston, Berkeley, and Dorchester County. And then if you're an investor, I'm going to give you the number one spot in the Tri-County area to purchase a foreclosure. I'm going to tell you where all of them are. So stick around. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Don't forget to give me a call if you have any real estate questions or want some advice, or you just want to chat. No cost, no obligation. 843-345-1273, or visit my website, listingsincharleston.com. I'll be right back.
Have a real estate question? Ask Brian Beatty. Send him an email, lowcountryhomesales@gmail.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show is on 1250 WTMA.
1250 WTMA.
Now, the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues on Charleston's Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back, Charleston, to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. Thanks again for tuning in. This is the part of the show where I just want to say thank you. I always want to try and make sure that I take just a little bit of time each program to just show my appreciation and say thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate all of the listeners that use this show as a tool for real estate information, and it's always very humbling to receive phone calls from all different types of people saying that they enjoy listening to the show and they get something out of it, which is the goal here, is to provide you with information in an entertaining way so that you can just keep a pulse on the housing market. I don't like to be the type of guy that's really salesy. That's really just never been my approach. I've always been very straightforward with people. I've always been maybe a little bit more blunt than I should be at some times, but also very compassionate when it comes time to discuss things like short sales and foreclosures, which is the topic we were on. But again, just wanted to say thank you very much for having me on this program and for entrusting me with your real estate needs. If you'd like to reach out to me, 843-345-1273, or visit my website, listingsincharleston.com, and you can take a look at everything I have for sale. You can read some testimonials from past clients, and if you're considering selling your house, just a quick note, click on the Sell Your Home tab, and you can learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee at 4.5% commission. And that very simply states, I will sell your home in less than 2 months, or I'll sell it for half my commission. Pretty good deal. Feel free to give me a call on that, 843-345-1273. So let me finish up this discussion on short sales and foreclosures, and then let's talk about what I had planned for the last part of this show, which was hiring a real estate agent and firing a real estate agent. So just a few more things on the foreclosure side. If we look at South Carolina in general, we have about 2,000 to 3,000 filings a month for some stage of foreclosure. And if you look at just the properties in total, the numbers really aren't as bad as I think we are sometimes led to believe. We throw out things like there are still over 10 million people nationally that are underwater in some form or fashion. And that sounds like a very big number. But if you look at South Carolina as a whole, 1 in every 851 homes is in some state of foreclosure. That's not very many, right? If you look at Charleston County, the numbers almost match perfectly. 1 in every 852 homes in Charleston County is in some state of foreclosure. If you look at Dorchester County, 1 in every 639 properties is in some state of foreclosure. And then in Berkeley County, it's 1 in every 578. So with the majority of properties in Charleston County, we've got about 150 to 250 filings a month for foreclosures. And what needs to be taken into account with regard to filings is that it's just a filing. It is not we are now foreclosing on your home. It has sold at auction and it is now a bank-owned property. No, what that means is that it could be you're behind on your payments. Here's a foreclosure notice. Or here's notice that it's going to sell at the master and equity sale at the courthouse. All of which these owners have the ability to reply to stop the process. Or, of course, they could just come up with all the payments they've missed. But I don't want you to think that, every month we have 250 deals in Charleston County that are bank-owned. That's certainly not the case. But I had said that, before I took that break, I'm going to tell you where to go to get the best deals or just the most deals when it comes to foreclosures. And the number one place in the Tri-County area is Ladson. In Ladson, 1 in every 258 homeowners are in some state of foreclosure. And, it really is in the lower income areas. If we look at all of the properties between 50,000 and 200,000 in Ladson, there are a bunch of older homes that people speculated on when they purchased it. They may not have been able to afford it at the time, but lending requirements were fairly loose, so they had the ability to get it. They were banking on the appreciation, and then what happened? The bottom fell out from the market. They were stuck with that property as an accidental landlord. Something happened, couldn't afford payments, had to let it go. Or it could be that the homeowner ran into an issue where they got laid off, or they had medical expenses, or they had a divorce, whatever the case might be. But that's where you want to go if you want to find the most foreclosures in our Tri-County area. Now, I will say that if you're willing to go outside of what I would call the Charleston area, you could go to Cordsville and you can go to Panopolis, and 1 in every 252 homes in those areas are in some state of foreclosure. So if you really want to know where the deals are, you got to go outside the Charleston area, in my opinion. But there's another good source of foreclosures for you. Again, if you're considering buying foreclosures, short sales, if you have an issue that you want to discuss with me privately about the fact that you owe more than your home is worth, or you're behind on payments and you need to get through that process, give me a call. I've done it dozens and dozens and dozens of times. 843-345-1273. All right, let's switch gears. Let's talk about hiring a buyer agent. Let's talk about hiring a listing agent. The reason I wanted to talk about this on this show is that what I'd said in the beginning of my program is that a lot of deals are falling through right now. And again, I think the reason for that is buyers are antsy to get into a home. They're either in a time crunch or they're up against another buyer in a multiple offer situation, and they go for it, and good for them for going for it and getting the property under contract. But then something happens. Either they don't like the results of the home inspection, or they realize, wow, I just made a really quick decision on buying a $600,000 house, and I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for doubling my expenses at home. I think maybe I rushed into this decision, or maybe the real estate agent just didn't give me all the information to make me feel comfortable in this decision, and now I need to react to this. I need to get out of this contract. So I'm either going to use the home inspection or the termite inspection or something to get out of this deal. And I've also seen it a lot in short sales. You know, real estate agents, if I know I have a lot of real estate agents that listen to this program, please, please, please coach your buyers on purchasing short sales. There is nothing more frustrating than getting through the short sale process as a listing agent, because it requires a ton of time. It really does. I mean, it's so lengthy to get a seller through the short sale process and finally get approval. There's nothing worse than getting through that process, finally getting it approved, going back and forth with the bank for weeks and months, and then we find out that the buyer has some sort of unrealistic expectation about the transaction that really means they shouldn't have made an offer on a short sale in the first place. So think about this just for a quick second, and I know I'm taking a tangent here, but it's something that has happened on several of the short sales that I represent this year, and frankly, it's because the buyers aren't being coached by their real estate agents. Short sales, by and large, are as-is deals. Sometimes, very, very rarely, a seller will make some repairs, or the bank might reduce the price in association with some defects found in the home inspection. But if the buyer's expectation is that they're going to do a home inspection and then send everything that home inspector finds to the seller or to the bank and say, fix it, frankly, you're just wasting your time. It's not going to happen the majority of the time. So I would rather see you not look at a short sale than invest several months of your time for what, in my opinion, is an unrealistic expectation, which is that you're going to buy a home that's in perfect move-in condition. It's just not the way it works. So anyways, I digress. Hiring an agent. Let's talk about buyer agents first, and I'm going to get through just the idea of what it means to work with a buyer agent. And then in our last break, we're going to talk about questions to ask. And then ultimately, if you hire them and they don't live up to their expectations, how do we move forward? How do we find another agent to work with? When you work with a buyer agent, first of all, I think it's incredibly important to have a sit-down discussion with that real estate agent. It's something I always push for when I meet a client for the first time, whether it be over the phone, by email, introduction. I say, hey, great to meet you. Let's set up a time to meet in my office so that we can talk a little bit more about what you're interested in. And then I want to go through what's going on in the market. I want to share with you the trends. I want to set some expectations. And I want to answer any questions you have so that this can be a smooth process. So the first step is just agree to sit down with that real estate agent if you're serious about buying a house. Now, of course, as you know, for me as a real estate agent that runs a team, I get 500 people a month that raise their hand and say, I'd like more information on this property, or I'm interested in buying a house, or how much are the taxes on this home, or tell me about this neighborhood, all kinds of stuff. Most of those buyers aren't ready to buy a house. They're just in the information gathering stage. So it might be an easy way for me to just answer an email and say, hey, here are the taxes on the property. What else can I answer for you? Or can you tell me a little bit more about your situation? And then they'll say, oh, well, we're thinking about retiring in Charleston the next few years, and we're just trying to gain a sense for, you know, how much taxes are here as compared to Virginia or whatever the case might be. But the first step is sitting down and having a discussion with that buyer agent. And when you do that, you will realize very quickly the level of experience and professionalism that real estate agent has. If they're unprepared to talk about the market or answer questions about what's happening in our industry right now, frankly, that should be a red flag for you. And there are a bunch of other things that you need to know and questions that you should ask. And I'm going to get to that next. I'm going to take a break. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Again, reach out to me, 843-345-1273, or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. I'll be right back.
Find Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Expert news and views on the Low-Country real estate scene. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Thanks again for joining me this morning and for listening in on all things real estate here in the Low-Country. Again, always really appreciate everybody that tunes in and uses this program as a way of learning more about our industry and taking the information that I share with you so that when it comes time to buy or sell a home, you're informed. You've got the information. You know what's going on in the market, and you're hopefully a little bit easier of a client to work with. But you also know what to expect, and you have an idea of when you're going to go and you're going to hire somebody to represent you, whether it's me or another real estate agent that you have a relationship with. Just because they're a friend or a referral from a family member, you're not going to discount the process of interviewing that agent and having a professional, business-minded and business-oriented discussion with them so that you set the right expectations. So that's what I want to talk about for this last segment. Again, any questions that you have, any comments, anything that you want to discuss in private, no cost, no obligation, just to give me a call and have a chat with me. My number, 843-345-1273, or visit my website, listingsincharleston.com. And again, if you're considering hiring an agent, feel free to contact me by looking at everything that I've sold in the past, which we're updating. We've got several properties to add to that. And of course, if you're considering selling your house, click on the Sell Your Home tab. You can learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee at 4.5% commission. So let me first tell you just a little bit about what it means to work with a buyer agent. When you sign a buyer agency agreement, that agent is going to give you pricing guidance. They're going to tell you what properties are worth before you make an offer. They're going to discuss terms with you. You know, terms are very, very important. There are a lot of people that have to move out of their existing house and buy something else, and that process can be very convoluted, and it is always stressful. So you want to make sure you're working with an agent that can get you through that process smoothly. It's very, very challenging, and sometimes the need to sell the property outweighs the need for a really smooth transition into a new home. It's all case-by-case basis. But we have to be cognizant of the terms of the contract and of that process, because it's sometimes more important than getting a percentage or two off the price on a really, really good deal. Of course, they assist you in the contract to close process. And then just as importantly, they're supposed to be there to provide you with market knowledge and set the right expectations with you. So, of course, some of the questions to ask them are, how many homes have you sold? What's the average difference between list price and sales price in the areas and the price range that I'm looking at, which will help you with those expectations. And then when you just sit down with the agent in general, you're going to have a sense for how experienced they are and how many times they've been through this process, just in the way that they talk with you about the market and in what to expect, and in their ability to get the job done time and time again for people. And that's exactly what I do. I don't have a canned buyer presentation. I don't put out a folder and say, here's everything that I've sold, and here's how big my company is, and blah, blah, blah. We're just going to sit down. We're going to have a chat about what your goals are. I'm going to tell you what to expect from the standpoint of what's going on in the market. And then we're going to have some very specific conversations about what you're looking for so that I can then go out there and find it. And when you hire most buyer agents, what they're going to do is they're going to have an initial discussion with you. Hopefully it's in person, but sometimes it's not. They're going to say, okay, great. Tell me what you're looking for. They're going to put that in the MLS. They're going to save the search criteria. Every time a new listing hits the market, you're going to get an email. And then that agent's just going to say, hey, when you see something you like, let me know. How easy does that sound? It sounds very, very easy. When you hire a buyer agent, they should be going above and beyond. They should be saying, let's have a conversation. Let me show you some properties in the MLS. Let me go over what to expect in this market. And then I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do all I can to try and find a property for you. I'm not just going to wait for the MLS to create search results for us. I'm going to prospect. I'm going to call neighborhoods that you're interested in. I'm going to talk to other agents to see if they have listings coming up. There's a lot that they can not do. There's also a lot that they can do to try and find you that property. So just some things to think about when you're hiring a buyer agent. When you're hiring a listing agent, this is really where, you need to hire somebody that's at the top of their game, quite frankly. Buyer agents are a tiny bit different because they don't have huge marketing expenses. They don't necessarily have to have a huge plan in place to affect a sale. They just have to find you the property. When you're a listing agent, we have to find you the buyer. We have to market it to as many people as possibly as possible, as effectively as possible, and as attractively as possible, so that I give you the best shot possible at selling quickly and for the most money and at the least amount of stress to you. So when you're hiring a listing agent, some of the things you need to ask, which are some of the same things, are, how many homes have you sold in the past 12 months? What is the average difference between list price and sales price for those homes? For me, it's 97%. For plenty of agents out there, it's more than 10% off of what they initially listed at. And there are plenty of agents out there that take a ton of listings. I know because I compete with them on a daily basis. And when I look at their stats, they're selling 40% of their listing inventory. The other 60% is expiring or withdrawing from the MLS. And what does that tell me? It tells me that they're overpricing their listings, and they're hoping that at some point, you as the seller are going to say, okay, what do we have to do to get this home sold? It's been 3 months. We've got to move. And then they're going to say, haha, gotcha. Just reduce it to this price and we'll get a contract. I don't subscribe to that mentality. I am very straightforward with people, sometimes maybe a little too blunt with people. But one of the things I always ask is, on a scale from 1 to 10, how straightforward do you want me to be with you? 10 being just blunt. And normally when I ask that question, it kind of puts this guard down a little bit. And they say, Brian, just be straightforward with me. That's what we want. And frankly, I think that's what everybody wants. Nobody wants sugar-coated information, because sometimes it affects what agents say. So once they say that, then they say, okay, great. This is what homes are selling for in this area. I'm comfortable with pricing it here, with the idea that if we don't get a contract in the first 30 days, 45 days, that we need to make an adjustment. But we're in a seller's market. Let's push the envelope a little bit in pricing because we can, based on what's going on in your area. But this is what's going on. This is also what you should do to your house so that it's as attractive and marketable as possible. You have that conversation up front, and then you let the seller make the decision. The other thing that is incredibly important, in my opinion, is the average days on market. How long is it taking you to sell your properties? For me, since the beginning of 2013, it's 36 days until I put my properties under contract. And that's a function of marketing them well with a very extensive marketing plan and, frankly, a very expensive marketing budget. But it also is about pricing, market knowledge, and setting the right expectations with those clients. It's so much more than going in, presenting a CMA, talking about how much property your company sells, and some testimonials from past. It's so much more involved, especially in this market, that you really need to be, like I said, business-minded when it comes time to interviewing that agent. Because if you don't, it's only going to come back to bite you later down the road. Now, I know that I said that I was going to give you some advice on letting your agent go or letting your client go if you are a real estate agent. So let me just say this. Typically, when you have a disagreement between a buyer or a seller and an agent, very rarely are you able to get that to work out. And the reason for that is because the agent's going to set some sort of expectation, or they're going to talk the talk, and then they don't walk the walk. And so once the client figures out that, hey, you didn't do what you said you were going to do, it's very difficult to come back from that as a real estate agent. And shame on you for putting yourself in that position for the first place. As a real estate agent, if you have your home listed for sale and you want to talk with me about listing your house, I can't have that conversation with you while you're in an agreement with another real estate agent. I can't solicit your business. So it goes against the code of ethics that we subscribe to. And just understand, sellers out there, that it's really uncomfortable for real estate agents to have those discussions with you while you're still in an agreement, because it's a punishable offense. Now, real estate agents, if you're continually giving your clients guidance and information based on experience and market data, and they continually don't take that advice, well, then you need to make a decision. Is it worth your time to continue to work with that person, or should you be taking your time to help your other clients? Just something to think about. I tell you what, I'm going to get out of here. If you guys have any questions, give me a call, 345-1273, or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Thanks a lot.
join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning from 8 till 9. Contact Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. 843-345-1273.